really aggressive, flinging bananas at the clerk who was hiding in the corner of the store. Then this guy jumped the counter, throwing cartons of cigarettes to the crowd. The free-for-all wasn't done yet. They
Violence this 61-year-old woman didn't expect, but in this video you could see her getting attacked by a group of young people police believe are half her age. The suspects, 3 women and a man, are seen beating her. At one point, one used a cooking pot. It happened on the sidewalk near West 151st Street and Frederick Douglass Boulevard in Harlem on Tuesday. Police say they stole 22
in goods. The latest robbery on Saturday in San Francisco. 80 thieves running into a Nordstrom, stealing goods and smashing shelves. Officers stopping one car, arresting a man and a woman, and then a third suspect was caught on foot. A day earlier, also in San Francisco, more than $1 million in merchandise was stolen after thieves broke into several stores that day. Walgreens is already closing several San Francisco stores after videos of brazen shoplifters went viral, including video appearing to show a man riding his bike out of a store with a bag full of stolen items. And the Chicago area has also been hit hard. Just last week, 14 suspects ran into this Louis Vuitton store, grabbing $120,000 in purses and other items before fleeing and getaway.
Man who on July 9th in the Soundview section of the Bronx robbed a 24-year-old man at gunpoint of his 2 neck chains worth a total of $20,000. As the suspect fled, bystanders noticed his gun and took cover, ducking behind parked vehicles. And detectives are asking for help tracking down a group of men wanted in connection with a citywide robbery spree, a total of 28 incidents, starting back in May, from stealing jewelry at gunpoint to iPhones and even cars like this 2018 Toyota Camry.
Welcome to another episode of the J-Lex podcast. I am your host, J-Lex. Thank you for rocking with me. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I want to grow this platform up and continue to bring you quality entertainment and information. You can catch it on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, and Spotify. Thank you for rocking with me. Today's topic: the argument for carrying. And what do I mean by carrying, ladies and gentlemen? I mean carrying a firearm. I know some of you are not going to like that. But let's be clear, I am pro-legal gun. All this stuff that you see out here, all the crimes, and a good portion of the crimes that are committed out here are done with illegal firearms. Clearly, I don't want those on the street. But we all know who is the biggest arms dealer in the world, starting conflicts and then going in and trying to diffuse situations to pay themselves. It happens. That is the reality of it. You can go and look it up yourself. You don't have to believe a word out of me. But we know what kind of times we live in. We know we live in dangerous times. Times have always been dangerous since the beginning, but now everything is out in the purview. You can see everything for the most part. There's cameras everywhere. What did I see? I saw the other day. I think I put it up on the page here. A 15-second clip. Some woman is walking by, and another woman. This is like Midtown Manhattan, and she just gets punched right in the face for no reason that anybody can think of. There's a lot of people out here with mental health issues. There's a lot of people living on the street, and I'm not saying that they are the sole reason for what's going on, but people are being robbed and stealing and all that other stuff. You can look up clips of the things going on in like San Francisco and LA. People are being followed to their homes and being robbed at gunpoint. Broad daylight. Beverly Hills, California, people are just walking in and taking shit. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. And yet you have these left-leaning cities run by Democrats for the most part. And look, crimes happen everywhere. They happen in rural America, trust me. But at least in rural America, they're a little more self-dependent. So they have firearms there. All right, people have shotguns. You don't hear about crime as much because people are carrying. But this is more directed towards kind of the big cities, like in New York City, Philadelphia, various parts of California, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Places like that. Do you hear about large amounts of crime? I mean, Texas has its own set of issues. We know what happened in Uvalde, which is unfortunate. We know about the things that happened in Sandy Hook and everything along those lines. But to hear politicians come out here and cap, talking about people shouldn't need guns and things along those lines, Meanwhile, those same politicians who say you don't need guns, mostly Democrat, are the same ones who have mini militias who protect them 24/7, that you, the taxpayer, pay for. You think Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell or any other person in Congress pays for their own security? You pay for it. The tax-paying American pays for it. And yet some of these politicians will have you believe that you don't need a firearm. Now, let's be clear. You have the right as an American, under your Constitution, don't have to agree with everything, but under your Constitution, you have the right to bear arms. You have the right to protect your property, yourself. Like I said, go onto YouTube, go onto any other social media. All you see, you can look them up. They're there all day. There's people, homes being robbed, people being robbed at knife point and gunpoint. And the only thing, as for instance, in California, they tell you is, don't wear expensive jewelry. Don't show that you have expensive jewelry. What? That's the whole reason that I got it, so that I could wear it. But you can't show it. That's the whole point of wearing jewelry. That's the whole point of wearing a watch, so it can be seen. Not saying you got to show off, but Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me? That's all that you have to say? Hey, just don't show out too much. What? Don't y'all get paid to serve and protect? Which is another thing that people have misconstrued. Back in 2005, give me 1 second. I'm going to look up the case right now. The case was June 27th, 2005. Castle Rock versus Gonzalez in the U.S. Supreme Court ruled again that police did not have a constitutional duty to protect a person from harm. The decision overturned a federal appeals court ruling that permitted a lawsuit against the town of Castle Rock for the police failure to respond after Jessica Gonzalez tried to get the police to arrest her estranged husband, Simon Gonzalez, for kidnapping their 3 daughters, ages 7, 8, and 10, while they were playing outside, in violation of a court-ordered issued protective order. After Simon called to tell Jessica that they were where they were at in Denver at an amusement park, for hours she pleaded for the police to arrest Simon, but the police failed to act before Simon showed up to the police department and started shooting inside, and with the bodies of the 3 children in the trunk of his car. That's terrible. In her suit against the town, Jessica argued that the protective order stating you shall arrest or issue a warrant for an arrest of a violator, and that it gave her a property interest within the meaning of the 14th Amendment due process guarantees, which prohibits deprivation of property without due process. That was back in 2005, and that actually came up again when the Uvalde thing happened, where that psychopath went in and shot all those elementary school kids. Disgusting. Where the cops stayed outside, and you can go and see the videos yourself, the cops, because they didn't want that video dropping, the cops stayed outside and did nothing. For the most part, I think a couple cops went in and got their children out. But then the cops were threatening the parents who were trying to get in to save their children. So under the Constitution, or at least in terms of the Supreme Court, they say that the police don't have a constitutional duty to protect you from harm. Well, if the police who get a pension, if the police who get time and a half and who have the authority to arrest people don't have to protect you, then who's going to protect you? Because it's clearly not the government. If the Supreme Court again rules that the cop does not have a constitutional duty to protect you, who's going to protect you? If somebody breaks into your house, if somebody tries to assault you. I think in New York State, if I'm not mistaken, it's illegal to have pepper spray or mace for you to carry it on you. Excuse me? Who's going to protect me who's going to protect me, or, I'm a married man, or my wife, if I'm not there to protect her? What, is she going to negotiate? If somebody breaks into your house, are you going to negotiate with them? You're going to give them some Oreos and milk? You're going to try to talk somebody down? who's broken into your home? Have y'all lost your minds? Are you kidding me with this nonsense? And yet you have politicians out here trying to do everything they can to either limit or keep you from being able to get a legal firearm. Now, like I said, I'm going to say it again. You have the right not to exercise that right. You might not feel comfortable with it. But for those of us who are comfortable, we want to be able to carry legally. Another one in New York State that I don't get. They limit the number of clips or number of bullets in your magazine. Why? If the cops can have 18, 17, or 18, the average individual should have 17 or 18. It shouldn't be limited to 10. I shouldn't have to go get an extender mag. This nonsense that I as a tax-paying citizen am going to be given a tough time in a place like New York City that takes 4% of your income off the top, off the rip, off 4% from your paycheck before you ever see it. It's going to sit here and tell me that I cannot carry a firearm? Now, it's a little bit different, like when you talk about open carry. Like I know in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Florida, that I think it's the only two states that I know of, where you can like carry it on your hip. I probably wouldn't do something like that. I probably don't agree with something like that. But you should be able to carry a firearm with you wherever you go. As long as you have your license, as long as you go and take a course, because a lot of people think, because you see it in the movies, that it's real cool, and you see it, you can, like I said, you can look up on YouTube or wherever the case might be. People shooting out at each other. It's crazy. You got to respect the firearm. In fact, what I think should happen, especially particularly in the case of women, is you should learn how to properly use a firearm and learn real self-defense. You can go to a Tiger Showman. You can go to whatever other place, whatever private place you know. Tiger Showman is the only one that comes to mind right now because they're all over the United States. You should know how to defend yourself. If, God forbid, somebody runs up on you with a knife. If, God forbid, somebody puts you in a chokehold from behind. If, God forbid, somebody's off their meds. That's another thing. I'll get into that another day. But people on their meds. Why do you think there's so many people living out in the street? I mean, people are on medication right now, but the pharmaceuticals don't get blamed for it. They, in fact, are given rewards and getting patents. I didn't realize till the other day. Well, I'll get into that another day. Here's the reality. Especially for women. You should, I talked about it in the previous episode, you should exercise regularly, but you should know how to truly defend yourself. If, God forbid, your husband or boyfriend decides to attack you one day, so that you know, maybe you can't out-muscle them, but you can out-leverage them, you can out-maneuver them, and keep yourself from either getting your ass whipped or worse. And you should know how to use a firearm. And it shouldn't just be a Glock. You should know how to use a semi-auto. I know some people are going to get mad about that one because, the shootings that happened. Well, there's a multitude of reasons those shootings happened. Most of those guns were illegal. You want to get those off the street? Cool. Now, I don't want to hear the nonsense about, we shouldn't be promoting guns and stuff like that. The cartels up in Mexico, where did they get a good portion of those guns and bullets from? Was it not Eric Holder with the Fast and Furious program? Did he ever see the inside of a prison cell? Y'all gonna miss me with this nonsense. Sorry, I'm going off a little bit here. But people in general, but women in particular, I would love to see more and more. There should be some type of program out there where you can go learn how to properly use firearms. And you should also learn how to defend yourself if, God forbid, a crazy person comes after you. Because you only get this life. I know people believe in reincarnation, all that other stuff, but you get this life. And somebody might try to run up on you and try to hurt you or your family or your children. There are endless videos of people out here, people creeping into their house. Maybe they forget to lock their doors, which I don't fully comprehend, but that's another story. And creeping into the house, stealing their stuff. And they ought to be thankful that, that person doesn't attack them. I mean, creeps are out here looking through people's windows. Endless videos. You know how many times an Instagram model or some type of influencer is out there and somebody tries to attack them? Heard about a couple people, unfortunately losing their lives for going on a date with somebody. You got to watch your back here. And once again, to the politicians, please stop capping. You have mini militias, you have Secret Service, amongst others, police officers who sit there and protect you. You think somebody who, the average congressperson, last I heard, I think makes just under $150K a year. And they don't pay for their own insurance. And they get donations and everything along those lines. So they have the financial means, even if they don't, even I don't think they come out of pocket. That's why all those people stay in there for so long. They get so many perks. You think somebody who's making $50,000 to $60,000 a year can budget in security for 24 hours? Or security when they're stepping out? Most of these people can barely afford to get an ADT system into their house. This is why it is important for people to learn how to properly use a firearm. And these big cities need to get sued or whatever the case might be. I know that the Supreme Court just a few months ago struck down, the ability of these big cities, mostly, like I said, big cities, New York City, LA, places like that, to limit, or they can't limit people trying to get their firearms. And of course, if you live in New York or near these places, they're trying to find ways to limit you from getting them, which is ridiculous. And why these politicians don't get voted out is beyond me. These governors and mayors and people like that, who once again have mini militias and shooters ready to get them, ready to act if something happens. But you, the average person making $50K a year, can't protect yourself? You have got to be kidding me. Learn how to defend yourself properly. Because, as I said before, there's a statute that says the cops don't have to protect you. It's not their constitutional duty. I don't really know what it is. I don't know what their job is then. Was it just giving out tickets? And I am pro-police. I'm pro-good police. The shitty police, they should be banned. They should lose their pensions, the whole bit. Get quality police officers in there. I know a few. So I am pro-police. I was never into this whole defund the police thing. What I was for was accountability. If you do something wrong and you get caught doing something wrong and there's evidence that you did something wrong, you should lose your pension. Anybody else who does something wrong on the job loses their job. Why is it now all of a sudden you're somehow you have a protected status, and you don't have a constitutional duty to protect the citizens that you upheld an oath to? If you're a bad cop, get them out of here. I'm all for it. I know they're unionized. I know the unions are strong, the whole bit. I get that. But come on now. You have the right, as an American. The Constitution was written a certain way. And I'm saying I agree with everything in the Constitution, but it's there for a reason. And you have a lot of politicians who are sitting here trying to rewrite it for whatever reason it is, probably mostly financial. It is your job. It is your responsibility as a man, as a woman, as a parent, as a business owner, as a property owner, to defend yourself. And if these politicians, these quote unquote lawmakers, are not going to do right by you, then you need to get them out of there. You really do. For whatever issues I might have with the Republican Party, at least that's not one of them. At least they don't sit there and try to take those rights away from you. I mean, they try to take some reproductive rights away. That's another story for another day. But unless we're going to bring in, not that I agree with it, but universal income, and everybody's going to make enough money where they can hire people, security, etc., to protect themselves, or to have the ability to protect themselves, then you should be able to garnish a firearm. People want to go crazy. Oh, you want to break into the house? Okay, I got something for you. And most people, not all, but most people who have a respect for the firearm, more times than not, are not going to even pop off. They're just going to hold you down until the authorities come. I mean, hell, I think in New York, if I'm not mistaken, if somebody breaks into your house and you pop off at them and then they end up outside and you pop them in your yard, you can be liable. How does that work? It's one thing if I was chasing them like across the street or something, but if somebody breaks into my house and is in my yard, whether I'm renting or I'm buying, that's my residence. I should be able to pop them, no questions asked. But no, instead they say, well, you got to drag him back into the house. Why would I drag a robber back into the house where my family or my property is? I got to drag this fool who had every intention, or on most cases had an intention of hurting me. Oh, if I beat them up, I'm liable. How am I liable if they're in my yard? I'm not beating up in the neighbor's yard adjacent to me. I'm not beating them up down the street near the stop sign. I'm beating them up right here in my yard, right here on my property. And I can still be liable. How does that work? In New York City, if you have a gun, they tell you not to use it to still call the police. What is the point of having a firearm if I cannot use it to protect myself? These rules don't make any sense. But what it ultimately comes down to is bringing in the right politicians. That's one of the big reasons a lot of these pollsters are having a tough time. Because what we're seeing now is a lot of people, younger individuals especially, are looking and they're saying, okay, I agree with some of this that's a little more left, but they want the ability to carry and conceal or open carry, depending upon the state. And I agree with that. The idea that if I'm a Democrat or a liberal, I agree with everything on this side, those days are done. They're over. The president of the United States, whether it's Barack Obama or Donald Trump or George, the Bushes or the Clintons, they all have security for life that you pay for. They ain't got to worry about nothing. But you, the everyday worker, making $65K a year, is not going to be able to afford round-the-clock security. You're just not, unless you're independently wealthy or something like that, unless you're the Rothschilds or, you're some type of celebrity. Actually, speaking of celebrities, what was it, 2 weeks ago, a month ago? California, they said that that there was data that was hacked, or what is it called now? Anyway, where they store information. I can't remember the name. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But basically, like, a bunch of people's names in California who had gun permits, including celebrities, all their names got put out there. I remember a few years ago in Rockland County, it was the same thing. But somebody purposely took the name from whatever the registry is and put it out there and given people's addresses. You know how quickly things can escalate if you're doing that? Because all it takes is one crazy person to go to somebody's house, knock on the door and say, can you not live in this neighborhood? Or can you get rid of your guns, or something along those lines. It escalates quickly and somebody might get shot. It almost feels sometimes like they do it on purpose, just to distract you. You have every right, and I know I'm repeating myself, but you have every right to defend your body, to defend your family, to defend your property. And if these politicians don't want to get with the program, you need to get rid of them. And then we find out if, elections are getting rigged and things along those lines. Do not be afraid to go toe-to-toe with somebody about your rights, about your freedoms. It's crazy what's going on in these streets right now. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the JLEX podcast. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Bye.